Here we are at week 4, and I'm telling you, this module is moving right along. And we are so close, but yet we've still got some things that we've got to do in this module before we get to module 6. So let's get to our regular business that we know we have to complete. We have our math trivia. We have one chapter today, length of stay, and then we're going to wrap it up. Now, for those of you who are watching this playback, here's the question I have for you. If you struck gold with a tax-free lottery jackpot of $6 million, what would you do with it? Well, let's talk about that in the discussion forum. 6 million, tax-free. Math trivia. Where is 4 considered an unlucky number? It is Asia. And I really like this one. Math may not teach us how to add love or subtract hate, but it gives us hope that every problem has a solution. And yeah, I really like that. Quick reminder, Career Services will be hosting next week's live session. So if there is any live session that you can attend, try to make it to next week. Mark your calendars because they are going to be hosting and really giving you all some really good information. With that, let's get into chapter 5, length of stay. We're going to watch this really quick 44-second long video that's going to tie right along with this evening's live session. So that is a little program that some facilities utilize just to help with length of stay and trying to figure out a lot of what's going on with their particular facilities. Now, what are our learning objectives? In tonight's live session, we're going to get into the realm of healthcare analytics where we're focusing on just analyzing length of stay for a lot of different patient demographics. We'll be navigating through the world of data to just analyze that length of stay for adults, children's, and newborn. Keep in mind, newborns at this point are still calculated separately. We also have to assess the total length of stay for carefully selected groups of discharged patients, unraveling the patterns in these patients that emerge from this essential metrics. And then the last thing we're going to do before we get out this evening is explore the different aspects of utilization management and its correlation with the length of stay, gaining insights that can inform strategic decision making in healthcare settings. So as with all of our statistical live sessions, we go through, we break down the length of stay or the terms, and then we'll get into how we actually calculate these equations. So we talk about length of stay. It is a way to measure how long a patient stays in the hospital, right? From the time they're admitted to the time they're discharged. We can figure out the overall length of stay for the entire hospital or break it down by specific areas like dealing with heart attacks or managing diabetes. It's basically a way to understand and track how much time patients spend in the hospital for different conditions. Now, we count every patient in the hospital except for the actual day they leave. Remember, discharge day isn't counted. Okay. The first thing that we have to do to find the length of stay for a patient, we do a simple math. We subtract the admission date from the discharge date. This gives us the total number of days they spent in the hospital. And when we're talking about discharges, we include everyone, whether they left the hospital alive or unfortunately passed away during their stay. And if a patient is admitted and discharged on the same day, we still count it as a 1 day stay. It's like they checked in and out on a single day, like a quick hospital visit. Now, for total discharge days, the sum of the number of days spent in the hospital for each inpatient who was discharged during the time period examined, regardless of when the patient was actually admitted. So I love this image. Dad, let's make a care plan so you don't have to return to the hospital. A lot of patients are readmitted to the hospital within 30 days after discharge. So let's make our plan because nobody's trying to come back, right? So I really like that little cartoon. Okay, now we get into length of stay and we're measuring it in healthcare. This tells us how much time a patient spends in the hospital. Again, starting from the day they're admitted to the day they're discharged. We can calculate the length of stay for the entire hospital or focus on specific areas like, again, heart attack or diabetes. It's usually that metrics where now we can look in and we can kind of figure out, okay, we're being efficient in this area, or you know what, maybe we need to go back and tweak some things so that we're more efficient. You have an example. A patient is admitted to the hospital on March 30th and discharged on April 4th. What is the patient's length of stay? Well, to calculate the length of patient stay, you can look at the calendar right in front of you to get the number 5. Discharge date does not count. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know they were discharged on this day. That's why I have kind of discharged on the bottom. We're not counting that day. Sorry, I have a small cold, so my voice goes in and out. All right. Another example. If a calendar is not available, like you don't have one, there's not one on your computer, you don't have your phone near you, you can list the dates from admission to discharge and counting all the dates again, except that date of discharge. So in this example, you have 3:30, 3:31, 4:1, 4:2, 4:3. They were discharged on 4/4. We're not calculating that day. Gives us 5 days again, where again, you just hear me saying this a lot. We do not count that discharge day. So that's method 2. So method 1, pull out your calendar. Method 2, you write the dates down. And then method 3, if you want to get into a little bit of mathematical fun, if you're like, you know what, I just want to add and calculate, we got you. Now, if the admission and discharge dates are in the same month, this way is a lot easier. You calculate the length of stay. It can be just by subtracting the day portion of the admission and discharge dates. So March 31 minus 30, 1 day, not too crazy, right? From March to April equals 1 day. And then you have your total length of stay, 1 plus 1 plus 3 equals 5. Again, recap, we have, sorry guys, 3 methods, okay? Calendar, method 1, writing the dates out, method 2, and then for those of you who want to do some calculations, we have method 3. You can choose however method you want. There's not going to be any instructions that says you have to use method 1, you have to use method 2. Okay. When you see these length of stay questions, it is whichever method is comfortable for you. So I kind of like this because there's no restriction, but you do have 3 different options. Quick recap. The sum of the number of days spent in the hospital for each inpatient who was discharged during the time period examined, regardless of when the patient was admitted. This is going to be your total discharge days. Now, there are a lot of terms, of course, in these smaller chapters. So you really want to be able to get some keywords to help differentiate total discharge days, length of stay. Okay. Now, clinical metric that measures the length of time, hint, hint, elapsed between patients, hospital admittance, and discharge. That length of time, length of stay. Okay, so try to figure out different ways to just differentiate. You are going to get a Quizlet that kind of breaks all this down that you'll be getting. I think I'll give it to you guys. It should open up today. If it doesn't, let me know. And then that's going to have weeks 1 through 4, a lot of different terms that you can kind of just go through. Not a requirement, just an additional resource for those of you who kind of like to have that repetitive flashcard type of resource. Now let's get to it. We're going to calculate the time spent in an outpatient setting. Make sure you have your calculators with you. I did not open mine up. Let me see if I can get it up and open really quick and shared with everybody. 1 second. Let's see if it'll let me do it. Okay, boom. All right. Now, here is our example. If the hour is the same, then you're subtracting minutes, okay? If a patient arrived at 8:05 a.m., right, and was taken to the exam room at 8:22 a.m., we subtract the minutes. So on here, it's a little bit, this one's pretty easy, right? We know from 8:22, so you have 22 minutes minus 5. That was only 17 minutes, okay? You guys with me so far? You can type in yes or no if you're with me so far. I don't want to go on any further if you guys aren't with me. Or give me a thumbs up. Okay, I got it. Okay, gonna keep moving. All right. So 17 minutes. That was our very first example. Now, with example 2, if a patient arrived at an outpatient clinic exam at 8:22 a.m. and the physician entered the exam room at 8:50 a.m., we're calculating that length of stay and we are utilizing the arrival to exam room to physician contact methodology for this patient. So again, we get our calculations, we set ourselves up for success. We have, I usually just do the minute part. So we have 50 minus 22 gives us, in this case, 28 minutes. Okay, not too bad. Just doing length of stay. So we have one was 17 minutes and one was 28 minutes. All right. Now, here's another example. We're calculating the time spent in an outpatient setting. Sometimes we want to know how long it's taking a patient to get from one part of a facility to another. A lot of times in the operating room, we'll have, okay, they were pre-op from here to here. They were in the room. We have a what we call cut time. So if a patient's supposed to be cut time at 7:30, they need to be in our rooms by 7 to 7:15. That way that we can do all of our prepping, all of our timeouts, our checking, making sure that we have all of the information correct, right patient, everything, so that we can actually cut at 7:30. Okay. Now, a lot of other facilities do that as well. So trying to figure out calculating the time spent in an outpatient setting. So we subtract 1 hour from 302, which will equal 202. And you would have like a chart which would have everything. They would have like time here, time there. And we have an example that we're going to go over. But this is just how you would kind of figure it out. From 3:02 to 2:02 is 60 minutes, right? We just subtract 3:02, 3.02 minus 2:02. And we know that that's 60 minutes, okay? Because we're talking about hours versus just regular calculations. So keep that in mind. Now the time is now 2:62, right? It's now possible to subtract the 2:62 from 111. So from 3:02 to 2:02, we know that's just 60 minutes. But then when you add on 60, right? Now you're looking at 2:62 minus 111, giving you 1 hour and 51 minutes because you want to convert everything into hours and minutes. And now we know that that patient waited for whatever reason 1 hour and 51 minutes, which is important because we can go back and say, hey, what was going on? What took this patient getting back a whole hour? A lot of times it could be waiting for lab results, your analysis. Maybe the patient was nervous and wasn't ready. So you have to figure out all of that and have it documented because that can affect the rest of the entire schedule. Okay, now this is how you would see it. Okay. In this slide, we're calculating the length of stay of the patients in the table below. If there's no year specified, we assume that it's not a leap year. So we know that non-leap years, we're looking at 365 days. And both dates are in the same year. So we look at what the total length of stay is. Now we're calculating the length of stay for each patient, right? So we have one patient admitted on January 10th. They were discharged on January 31st. Remember that you have your admitted and discharged in the same month. We use the method 1 to 31, 10 over 31, right? 31 minus 10 on 7/8 to 7/30. Again, these are not that bad because all you're having to do is subtract. Now, here, remember they say if you're admitted and discharged on the same day, you are going to have 1 day of length of stay because you can't have zero. You can't have someone that just didn't come, right? So they came in, they came out, it's one. So we're able to do days, we're able to do time. Now, when we look at the average length of stay, it refers to the average number of days that inpatients who have been discharged during a specific time frame spent in the hospital. The metrics is extremely important, especially for hospital administrators, as it helps in identifying different trends and patterns in the care provided to their patients. Another term that you may hear for average length of stay is the average duration of hospitalization. And when we analyze this, healthcare administrators, they're able to gain insights into the efficiency and quality of patient care over a given period. It's so important for just monitoring and improving hospital management practices. Okay, so look at the average length of stay, and of course, it's useful. We get into our calculation, where you're trying to calculate the average length of stay for adults and children patients. Keep in mind, newborns are still done separately for now. This is how you're going to see. You're going to get some charts again, right? And you're using the statistics in the table below to determine the following calculations for community hospital, and you're rounding all figures to one decimal place. Make sure we're looking at these little last portions of the instructions. So we know that no matter what the whole number is, even if it's 10, we're going to put 10.0. Calculate the average length of stay for adults and children patients. Well, we need to look at what numbers we're looking at, what row we're looking at, right? So we look at total adults and children, and we are staying right here, 15,672 and 67,392. Okay. We set ourselves up. We have the total length of stay over total discharges, including deaths. Now, let's do our calculations. Make sure you guys are checking my work. Trust but verify divided by 15672. Did anyone get anything different? I got 4.300153, etc., etc., etc. Okay, perfect. We also have to remember that we are following the instructions that tells us that we are doing one decimal place. So that 0 does nothing to that 3. We know that our answer is 4.3. All right. Now, I mentioned that our newborn patients are done separately. So here's an example of same chart, but now we are looking at the average length of stay just for newborns. Again, we know that there are 3,453 discharge dates. And the number of patients that were, I'm sorry, the number of newborns that were discharged by that time were 1,502. Let's set ourselves up, and then I'm going to let one of you tell me what you have. 3,453 divided by 1,502. Again, perfect. We have that one decimal place. That is correct. And then just so everyone can see, 3,453 divided by 1,502. So they got a long number for those of you who are watching. But the 9 said, hey, you need to represent me. All right. And that's how the 2 went up to 3. So then the answer is 2.3. Good job, everybody. Most hospitals don't include newborns in the average length of stay, believe it or not, in their calculations. And this is why um, they're kind of separate. And the reason is newborns usually stay in the hospital for a short time, similar to the mother. However, if a newborn needs special care and they go to the NICU, then they're longer. So they're either going to be super short or super long. And that can really throw off the overall average length of stay. So just to keep things accurate, that's why hospitals often analyze the average length of stay separately for newborns and mothers. Does that make sense? Does that kind of like give you a reason why, you know, at least with the average length of stay, they're going to be separate? Because it's one of those outliers. They could be super short, or they could be there for weeks or months in some cases if it's an extremely early gestational period that the baby was born. All right.
Do
So,
hospitals, I have
go
a
ahead.
question. Do hospitals do a different length of stay when it comes into the maternity section? And I'm
Yeah.
only asking this question because like the day my daughter was discharged from the hospital, we waited all day and she was there until like 7 o'clock at night. So she ate breakfast, lunch, dinner, and was still given pain meds up until we left. So would that day still not be counted or would it be counted?
It would still not be counted. That's a
Huh,
great question. Yep. Discharge days is still not counted. Yep.
okay. So how do
Great
they get
question,
paid
though.
for that stuff? How do they get paid for all of the services that were still given to the patient on
That is
that
a
day?
great question. That that is something that I do not know. That is a great question. I just know that even with all those services, the day of discharge is still ironically not counted.
Oh,
But at the same time, keep in mind that they do newborns and moms different.
right.
So as far as like the finances parts goes, I'm not that good with that. I'm not sure, but I am actually going to look that up, and I'll probably get back to you and kind of, and if anybody else wants to know, I'll probably put in announcements, but I'm going to let Miss Joanne know because I'm curious as to that as well.
Thank
So
you.
great question. Um, yeah, but yeah, so we just keep in mind, y'all, that we do them separate. And then here's another example. We're using the table below to calculate the average newborn length of stay. And we're rounding again to one decimal place. Okay. So you see, I kind of already had it worked out. Yeah, right. I'm curious. So we have 278, 103. I'm just checking my work. Okay. This would actually be 2.8. See, trust and verify. 427 divided by 128. Okay, that one's correct, 3.3. And then 247 divided by 107. And then once you find the formula, then you can just go with the flow, right? So we know we have our discharge in numerator and the discharges in the denominator, 27, 3, and 2, 3. I believe you have a couple examples this evening or in your applying reflection that we'll go through. And as we start getting closer and closer to our final exam, I'm going to be grabbing a lot more knowledge check questions. I'm going to be grabbing some poll questions just to get us ready for this cumulative exam. So this week I only grabbed, I think, 2 questions. And then we're determining the length of stay for the following patient admitted on June 25th and discharged on July 4th. Now, I want you to remember that you can do whatever method works for you. You want to use method 1, pull out the calendar. You want to use method 2, and you're calculating by just putting the dates. And method 3, if you want to do some calculations. Now, keep in mind with the calculations, those are done easiest when the patient is admitted and discharged in the same month, but you can still do it. Okay. So here we have A, 10 days, B, 9 days, C, 8 days, or D, 7 days. That is correct. I'm not type of person that pulls out the calendar. Just gonna say that. But that is correct, 9 days. And then the next one that I grabbed that you could potentially see, what is the wait time for a patient who arrives at the physician's office at 8:05 a.m. and is seen by the physician by 9:15 a.m.? You have 68 minutes, A, B, 80 minutes, C, 60 minutes, and then D, 70 minutes. Keep in mind the easiest way for this one is to knock out that 60 minutes first and see what you have left after, and then add that. That is correct. You are on it today. Yes. 70 minutes. Yes. I also wanted to go over really quick. You have a couple of questions from your apply and reflection. Now, I know that the apply and reflection is already up on announcements that go by, but I did want to kind of go over some of these as well. You'll still see it, but we have your admitted and discharged, and these are the ones that you can do again with the 3 methods. Okay, so the very first one, remember, patient discharged and admitted on the same day, 1 day. Okay, we have 625 to 7/4, 9 days. Who can give me number C? Patient C, not number C. Who can give me patient C? What do you think it is? So we have 37. So we have 625, which is, so the way I do it, 625 to 725 is what, 30 days? And then from 725 to 81 minus that day of discharge will give us 37. But then again, I use the, oh, okay. That is correct. I had to look. Yes. 69 is correct for the last one. So 625 to 92 is 69. So patient A, 1 day. Patient B, 9 days. Patient C, 37 days. And patient D is 69 days. How do y'all feel about this particular chapter length of stay?
So the number part of it was kind of easy, but the memorizing length of stay, average length of stay, and total length of stay, a little bit more complicated. I kept
And
mixing them up.
yeah, yes. And so that's why flashcards. I'm going to give you guys the Quizlet that has all of the information. I didn't want to give it to you before week 4 because it has weeks 1 through 4, but you'll get that this evening, and then it'll hopefully, you guys can use it as flashcards and get ready. So hopefully it'll help. Keep in mind that you will please, please, please have those formulas from weeks 1 through 4 available. You will get them again before next week, so you can have those for you just in case you don't have them. Um, Please use those. We do not expect you to memorize all those formulas. That's crazy. But we want you to have them with you. Okay.
Right.
We're at week 4. We are flying through. I feel like this year is going by. There's times when it's slow, but right now I feel like we are flying by. For those of you who are watching the playback, you struck gold. You just got $6 million tax free. What you gonna do with it? Let's talk about that in the discussion forum. Where is 4 considered an unlucky number? It is Asia. And math may not teach us how to add love or subtract hate, but it gives us hope that every problem does indeed have a solution. We went over length of stay this evening. We went over not just length as in days, but we know how to calculate months. We can calculate minutes and hours as well. We know that it's important. And this is our wrap up. What questions do you have for me? I love that quote too. No questions. With that, I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. Be on the lookout for the um Quizlet, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening. Great job with all the participation. I know math can be a little bit scary, but y'all are doing it. Y'all better be proud of yourselves because I'm proud of you. Keep up the excellent work. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you guys are doing really good. I'm a Virgo, so I'm not going to just be saying stuff just to say it. You guys are really doing a
Me
good
too.
job, and I'm very proud of you. So,
Virgo.
huh?
I'm a Virgo too.
Yes. When is your birthday?
September 18th.
Okay, I'm September 3rd. We will be in class on my day, on my birthday, by the way. So we will be here
Uh, we will be preparing for finals the week of
for
my
your
birthday.
birthday. All right. So
Yes.
that just means y'all are gonna be good. September 2nd. What? This class rocks. Or this cohort works. Well, on that note, you guys have a great night and
You
see
too.
you all who can make it in next week's last session. Remember, career counselor or career services will be here. So they're gonna be hosting. Okay. So just keep that in mind.
Got it.
Is that the whole? So you're almost here. A happy birthday, Miss Leo. On that note, good night, everybody.